August 29th, 1835. New Yorkers are packed around newsstands like sardines, gripping the latest edition of the Sun's newspaper. Life on the Moon, they read in disbelief. Sir John Herschel, one of the world's most celebrated astronomers, has made a mind-blowing discovery through his telescope. He tells of the moon having lush forests, dazzling blue seas, temples, cities, and bizarre new creatures like bison, unicorns, and tailless beavers, but the grand discovery is a humanoid bat creature called the Vespertilio Homo, which he claims to see gliding through moonlit groves. It sounds unbelievable, but for a few days back in 1835, this lunar fantasy became New York's gospel truth. But how did so many people fall for it? Richard Adams Locke, a reporter for The Sun, pulled off the ultimate deception. With a flair for the dramatic, he wrote these articles not just to poke fun at the wild scientific claims of the day, but to boost the Sun's circulation by exploiting society's obsession with new scientific frontiers. And his scheme worked better than expected. First, Locke invoked Sir John Herschel's name, a titan of astronomy, falsely claiming Herschel had observed these moon wonders using an enormous telescope from the Cape of Good Hope. Readers believed it because Herschel's name was golden, and the intricate descriptions of this supposed telescope seemed legit. Locke described it as having a lens 24 feet in diameter, weighing 7 tons, and able to see details like beehives on the moon. He then went into detail about the bat-like Vespertilio Homo who flapped their wings above temples conversing in unknown languages. He described the winged humanoids as living in a pastoral society. Locke peppered in pseudo-scientific jargon to make these moon creatures appear plausible, and even labeled them with Latin names for a veneer of credibility. The public went wild. Yale professors couldn't put their newspapers down, eagerly dissecting each new article. Students and faculty alike crowded the reading rooms, peering over one another's shoulders to get a glimpse of the latest lunar discoveries. One professor was reportedly intrigued at the descriptions of the lunar flora, debating whether Earth plants could thrive in the moon's climate. Such was the grip of the Great Moon hoax that even the nation's most educated were drawn into its mystique. Meanwhile, New York's elite gathered in salons, buzzing with theories about moon societies. Discussions ranged from the architecture of the moon temples to the sociology of the Batman. Was it possible that lunar civilizations had evolved differently because of lower gravity? Could their complex society hold the key to understanding our own? Some speculated about trade agreements between Earth and the moon, while others dreamt of a future where mankind might visit these new lunar neighbors. Religious groups also took notice. With the vivid descriptions of the Batmen's temples and their strange but seemingly sophisticated rituals, certain missionaries began to consider the possibility of lunar conversions. One pastor reportedly thought about bringing the heathen Batmen to God, while another declared it his duty to organize a mission to the moon. Locke's lunar kingdom stirred the imagination of ordinary people as well. Tavern patrons debated the details of the telescope. Sailors swapped stories of supposedly meeting the Batman during their voyages, and merchants imagined the riches that awaited in lunar trade. The effects weren't limited to New York City. The stories spread across the US and Europe. Boston's Daily Advertiser, Philadelphia's Pennsylvanian, and London's Times all piggybacked on the articles, spreading the moon mania to even wider audiences. In Liverpool, crowds gathered outside the newspaper offices, clamoring for more information on Herschel's incredible discoveries. The New York Sun, a relatively unknown penny paper before the hoax, saw its circulation skyrocket. It became the most widely read daily in the world at that time, with nearly 20,000 copies circulating daily. It was the first instance of a newspaper realizing the commercial power of sensationalism. Locke's hoax had successfully lit a fire under the Sun's circulation. Meanwhile, other newspapers were scrambling to keep up. Some papers, like the New York Evening Post, remained skeptical and criticized the Sun for duping the public. Others played along, publishing editorials speculating on what other marvels Herschel might uncover. In a matter of days, the Great Moon hoax had become a national sensation, and Richard Adams Locke had woven a spellbinding fantasy that blurred the lines between science and satire. And then came the skeptics. The more outlandish the articles became, the more questions people began to ask. Could such a telescope really exist? How did Herschel keep these discoveries secret for so long? By the time the articles described the winged bat human, even some of the most ardent believers began to raise an eyebrow. But Locke had already achieved his goal. The Sun was now a household name, and the world was enthralled by his lunar utopia. Finally, on September 16, 1835, the Sun admitted the truth that the whole story was a fabrication. And yet, instead of outrage, readers chuckled and tipped their hats to the creative genius behind the hoax. But that wasn't the end of the story. The hoax created ripples far beyond New York, raising serious questions about journalistic ethics. Newspapers found themselves under increasing scrutiny around sensational headlines. The Great Moon Hoax remains one of the earliest examples of media manipulation. But here's the kicker. Sir John Herschel, the real astronomer who unwittingly got caught up in Locke's hoax, never gave permission to use his name. He became a target of harassment as letters flooded in from people around the world, all clamoring to learn more about his supposed discoveries. Even today, Locke's Moon Bison and Batman serve as a potent reminder that the truth often plays second fiddle to our fantasies, especially when delivered by a savvy storyteller with a nose for controversy. Hey guys, this is Nick from The Curious New Yorker, and from the bottom of my heart, thank you for watching.